My name is Vincent Penn. I'm from the Cameroons and from Menka village.
My name is Mafo Pen. I'm from Cameroon and I come from Menka village, same place with my husband. Ours was a strange relationship. It started from a third party. It was a third party organized meeting. So one of my husband's sister-in-laws came to see me, say, I've brought a guy, I just want you to meet this guy. And so, yeah, it was a strange meeting, but I met him and it was in the night, so I couldn't really tell. He was very casual, looked somewhat funny, and I was wondering to myself, what kind of a person is this, considering that I had a lot of different things that I was looking at. And then that's how the relationship blossomed. And he actually told me that he was a farmer. He works in a village farm and he would like to be my friend. So I, being a research technician at that time, I was thinking to myself, what will a farmer and a research technician have in common? So it was quite a strange meeting like that, and somewhat there was that spirit, and when that spirit is in you, you just know it. It said, go on and see what this is all about. I think he may want to tell some of the story.
Like my wife just said, I appeared quite very casually. That's quite true. And my reason was to look for a woman to look for a true woman, so to say. I needed somebody who will support me, who will be a part of me, and who will marry me for who I am, not for what I really am. So when it was the right time for me to get married, after meeting my brother's wife, who then took me to her, I decided to actually go in with canvas, with slippers and a short trouser. And I made sure that there was enough dust on my body so that I could mix up with everybody else. You don't have to look different. So that to me will help me to identify whether the woman that I want to marry really loves me or there's something that she is looking for. So I didn't want to have any form of misrepresentation. I didn't want to get somebody who is looking for something beyond just married out of love. So we met with her and we had the first chat. The first day, she didn't give me a face. I insisted for the second meeting. And in that second day, in my persistence, that was when she then decided, you know what, let me give you my number and we'll carry on. And from there, we started building, and here we are today. Expectations, nothing much has changed. The thing is, when I got married, I expected to have a woman who will support me. And obviously, in marriage, you're coming from a different family, different upbringing and background. Your wife to be is also coming from a different background and different upbringing. So the challenge that you will have is obviously the harmonization of those two families, the two ideologies, so that you can be able to make a proper home. And apart from that harmonization, I think our expectations have all been good from my side, because I expected a woman who will give me the necessary support that I need. I expected a woman who will be visionary. I expected a woman who will that I will admire at all times, which I believe I do have.
Okay, for my part, when a person meets you and tells you that I'm a farmer, you think of, in my context, it was a very broke person who doesn't have enough money to support themselves, not to talk of supporting another person. So, but then when I finally really knew who he was, and it dawned on me that he was not claiming, because when I got married, I didn't expect much from him, even after realizing that he was not the person he was saying he was. I did not still expect a lot, but I was looking for someone as well who has a vision, who works hard. And I found that in him already from day one. He was a hard worker. And I said to myself, okay, even though he may be broke and very poor, but we will work together. So when I when I saw him and I finally met him, I realized that he even had a car. I was like, wow, how come you have a car? Because I didn't expect to see a car. I just expected to have a husband who has somewhere to stay, and we can stay and then we can try together. Then I found him, he has a car. In fact, he surpassed my expectations. I found him having things that I didn't expect him to have, considering that, he was trying to be this low-key person. And so for me, that was good. But on the other side, in terms of the relationship, I also was looking for someone who could commit to me and who could actually show me love, and that is what, and respect, that is mostly what I was looking for, and that I actually got, because I think I have with me here a loving husband. Yeah. All right, no, in terms of responsibilities, when I got married, yeah, it was a little bit overwhelming. That I won't lie to you. It's not a bed of roses as you think. After the honeymoon phase, the reality hits home. So now you are a wife, and I had to be this person who cares for the other person, make sure they eat, make sure they dress properly, and all whatnot. But I think I found it easy to embrace those responsibilities. In fact, much more easier than I had anticipated. This is the reason why, and it may be different for other women because of their own specific situation. For me, I'm the first daughter of a woman who has 5 sons before me. So in my very tender age, I was already groomed to be a mother to my brothers. So it came naturally that I could actually fit somewhat into the role, the cooking and the ironing and washing and all of that. But I think it was more or less what I expected. Yeah.
Because of the overwhelming care that I've had from my wife, I think one of my major talents that I've lost over the years is my cooking skills. Because I used to cook very well on my own. I used to do a lot of things. But the moment she came into my life, things have turned 360. I didn't expect anything than having a caring wife, which I am so blessed to have had. And we're moving quite well.
How about the money part?
For the money part, I always knew that money will come. Remember, initially when I met you, I didn't show money because I knew I didn't have money. I knew that I was looking for a woman that would meet me, would sleep on the floor, progress into a 1-bedroom, and eventually get to where we're going. Yeah. So finding you was just for me a square peg in a square hole. So we had to grow progressively. We're still growing progressively by the grace of God, and definitely we will get there.
For me, the difficulties in the relationship, first of all, the first challenging thing for me was moving away from my home to a strange country, and where I don't have a mom or a dad to look after. Then I had just this one person who was my husband to look up to, and that for me, first of all, was a very challenging situation there. But more especially in our own relationship, I had to start knowing this person from the ground, like from fresh upward. Living together is quite different from staying apart and dating. It's something else. So, we, in the first 3 years of our marriage, we used to query over small things like, where's the money? What did you do with the money? I think the money situation kept coming home, and because you realize that, okay, at this point in time, am I a part of the deal or am I not part of the deal? So we used to fight a lot about money issues. We used to fight about the wrong things, and sometimes he didn't talk much. He would just ignore me practically. When women go on a rampage, he would ignore me, and that will now escalate the problem. You'll go for a week without talking to him, or probably just acting out, And those were some of the things that we had. I think that was among the challenges that I particularly faced. I couldn't deal with the money issues. Finances, because I was not working, he was working. So it kind of brings about a kind of a one-sided relationship, I may put it. He has the money and I don't have any job or any money. So then I come to him for the money and I want him to give me the money. And he doesn't want to part ways with the money as such. So it becomes a very difficult situation, and most of the time we would fight about money issues. I mean, for the I think almost 3 years of our marriage, we had a lot of issues about who has the money and when is it coming to the table for everybody to share. So
the money issue to me was not really so much of a challenge. It was more of our different backgrounds and upbringing. Because for me, I was coming from that background where the husband is the head of the family and you come home with money. As long as you do what you're supposed to do, you are not supposed to be questioned. And unfortunately, it wasn't like that. My wife was from the other school of thought where everything needed to be transparent. She needed to know about everything that is happening. So we had our tough moments, and by the grace of God, we dealt with that.
Yeah, we did deal with that. Well, but we didn't deal with that per se. We arrived at a compromise, because with money you never deal. It's a very challenging situation. We arrived at a compromise that actually allows for everyone to be responsible for something, and for money to not be an issue that we have to query over and all that. And I think, for me, that is the lesson that people should learn in relationships is sometimes no one is actually right. Sometimes we need to be on middle grounds, reach a compromise so that, we can just move forward. Otherwise, we'll forever, be on each other's neck. Okay, so for me first, 12 years later, because this is our 12th wedding anniversary, starting from 30th of December 2018, we now are blessed with 4 children. Every woman's joy, every woman's happiness comes from having the fruit of the womb. So for us, the children came easily, that we said this can only be God. So we're grateful for God's blessing in terms of the children that we have and how they've done well. We also thank God because when we started, we were living in a very small one room, I think sharing the apartment with others. And God has since blessed us with so many things in terms of growing out of that space, gaining our own accommodation, being able to live freely and, make ends meet in a foreign country. Sometimes it's quite a difficult thing for people, but then we've passed those places, and we can actually say we've been really blessed. We've been exceedingly blessed.
For me, it's about putting the other person in your shoe at any given time. We have made sure that we don't lose the very first thing that brought us together. And most importantly, where your wife or your husband is weak at is where you need to come in to support and make sure that you shield the weakness. The next thing that has kept us going, which we hold on to very strong, is if we do come across issues that are challenging to us, we solve them by ourselves, because every third person that comes in is an enemy. So we sit down, we work on our issues, we talk about the difference, we talk about our differences, and we find ways to iron ourselves out.
Then, also in terms of the nurturing part, I just like the word nurture because it relates to the growth of a little plant that you've planted, and it grows. And for me personally, it's about communication. constant communication, like my husband has said. I concur with that. We always try to talk. Sometimes I think I was the premature one in the relationship generally, because I did not, for the first years of my marriage, I did not even understand what that nurturing was. I still wanted him to be, in a place of, the romantic, and never seeing that the real challenges of life are about to hit home. So yeah, for me, I was the immature one. Then when the challenges hit home, I don't handle very well. And this is a situation where I think many women, they found themselves, you want him to sweep you off your feet all the time, but you know that the reality is that we still have school fees to pay, we have some things to buy for the child and all that, and it didn't used to work that way. So but I think I've since grown with that, such that even just by the look of my husband's face, I can know, hey, it is time to shut up, it is time to keep quiet. And I think that grows with time in the relationship. And then for fueling the marriage to actually grow is we try not to take each other for granted, because it's a whole thing of, sometimes when you are so used to a person, you tend to take the person for granted. So, and then you ignore the primary needs of that person. So I think for us, we have also matured into that place. We were not like that initially. We have matured into that place where we don't take each other's needs for granted. I know that I can rely on my husband. If I call him that indeed this is a situation, I think he comes up to speed, and vice versa. And then the last thing also for the nurturing part is hard work. Yes, marriage is hard work. I'm really serious that it is hard work. Sometimes as a woman, I'm tired, I'm flat out, I'm burnt out from dealing with kids, from cooking, from also dealing with my work, and then I still have my husband to deal with. So it comes to a place where you have to now say, God, give me the strength. And I believe that God is also one of the primary reasons that we've been able to see these days, still be happy together, still be in the marriage, and yeah, keep going.
My wife, I don't know the kind of power that she has. I don't know how she gets it right. I'm really, really baffled. We could go to bed at 1 o'clock, and by 3:30, 4 o'clock, she's up.
So I think just like he said, I'm the early riser. He doesn't rise early, no matter what. He needs at least 7 hours of sleep. So I'm the one who always gets up very early. But also, like we always say, everything is very contextual. It's in a context from where I come from. Having been to a boarding school all my life, you are bound to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. So it kind of imbues into your frame, and you cannot sleep beyond certain hours. Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to intimacy and sex, I would rather say that we have been fortunate in terms of our relationship. At least I put fortunate because I know many a couple that struggle with these issues. For us, I've had always the support of my husband when I'm tired. So it boils down again to some kind of communication between a couple. But for us, intimacy plays a huge part of our relationship. I don't know whether this is the right platform, but I would like to share this, that at one point he actually got a job offer to go to another country, for instance. And this would mean leaving his wife behind. And I think part of the reason why he did not take this particular job offer was the consideration that I cannot leave my wife behind, but not really my wife, but actually my sexual life. I cannot leave the intimacy behind, to be in a different country on my own. So for us, sex is actually very important in a marriage, and we have been blessed to have a fruitful relationship in that aspect. I don't recall any major challenges apart from the obvious challenges for when you have a child. A child comes into picture, and the man starts feeling like all she focuses on now is her child. She no longer considers my own needs. And I thank God because, I mean, He has given us the grace to always go over that period. And I think for the first child and the second child, it was a little bit challenging for him. Maybe he will testify to that. But from the third child, I think he was already used to the fact that, okay, in this season, little baby takes priority.
For me, it has really been great, like my wife has mentioned. There's a good sense of understanding, and we support each other when we feel we really exhausted. And where we can get up to the game, we don't waste time, because that's very important for holding us together. The actual challenge came in only after birth, but before birth, we were close right through. We love each other to the extent that the pregnancy was not enough to keep us apart.
That's true. I think in terms of intimacy, we didn't have a problem when the baby was in the stomach. Now, the problem now came when the baby arrived. And the usual medical restrictions of you have to back off for a while, you need to heal and all that. But like I said, I think my husband adjusted very fast to the intimacy issues. And then about bringing us closer, because there's a thing, it happens where a person has a child and you find that the couple no longer have that time. But for us, especially with our first child, it was actually the opposite. The child brought us really close. Like, we used to go everywhere with our baby. It didn't matter where we were invited. Know that if babies are not allowed, we are not coming. So we were actually a family. Like, we were much closer when we had the child. So I think it was a good experience.
I did.
He didn't. That part is a lie altogether. Now, let me tell you how this happened. I was never proposed to as a wife. The whole scenario of, will you be my wife? I never got asked that question, ever. Now, my husband right here, he came to me and he told me that he was a farmer, like I earlier told you, and that he would like to be my friend. That was the first thing he said. He wants to be my friend. I was like, okay, but what is in this friendship for you? You are a farmer. I am a research technician. How do we, what is the ground of our friendship? He was like, no, let's just get to know each other. And when we started knowing each other in terms of just communicating, he now said, you will be my wife. He did not ask me. He said, I will marry you. It was not a question. It was something like he imposed it on me, like, you will be my wife. So I did not have an opportunity to say yes or no. And I remember opening my mouth to say, what? I will be your wife, as in, are you asking me? But he never gave me the chance to actually answer that question. I mean, even now, I'm still, or did you propose ever?
No, you're quite correct. When it was the right time for me to get a wife, like she mentioned before, my elder brother's wife, living in South Africa at that time, I was 8 years old in South Africa, and it was the right time for me to get a wife. So I went home and I asked around, how can I get help? How do I get the necessary exposure? This is my time and I can't go back without a wife. This is the time that I need to get married. It is not tomorrow. It is not the next day. I need a wife. So they checked around and they said, which compound do we have a child that has been brought up properly? Where do we have a child that we can really look up to? So in the course of all that thinking, I was then introduced to her, and that is how she was pulled out of her mother's house to come and meet with us. And looking at her critically, in the few minutes that we sat in that spot and interacted, I actually confirmed in me. Usually, before I take a major step like that, I always pray. I was not a Christian, but I knew that there was God. I would say I was not really a Christian. I was a churchgoer at that time. So I asked God, please help me, redirect me to the correct person, So immediately I got to her, I knew that this was the one. And in the course of that interaction, I saw what I wanted to see, I felt what I wanted to feel, and I had the maturity in her articulation, and I was happy with everything. So I started just making the necessary advancements, and that was just how it ended up. I didn't ask how much. I told her, "You will be my wife," as she rightly said. And in the course of our discussions, I think she picked up certain elements that got her continuously intrigued to see what this guy, this impostor, is all about. And here we are today. It took us a year. I left here and went home. Then I was introduced to my wife. We eventually agreed that we're happy with each other. We will get married. I went and introduced myself to her family. My family, the two families, got to know each other, and they took the assignment. My family was given the assignment to perform, our normal assignments when you're getting married. So we started walking the journey, and I left back for South Africa. And as the year went through, everything was being done progressively till the end of the year, where we then eventually got married.
Yeah, so for us it was a year journey, like he has said. He has actually said it all. We courted, even though in a distant relationship where we don't meet, but at least we could communicate every day. And yeah, and the families were aware, so there was no clandestine in the courtship. And our tradition is such that it requires the man's family to go to every uncle that the girl has. So that is what took the family some time, because they were going from one uncle to the other throughout the year.
I know that God directs. He is the one who puts marriages together. He is the one who sustains. He is the one who gives us the necessary wisdom that is required to deal with the issues of life. So we depend on God. I'm happy that I also got married to a God-fearing woman. And I think it's by virtue of getting married to her that I'm fully born-again Christian today. Because I only fully went to church, I think about 2012, thereabout, after we've been married for 4 or 5 years. So what we do is we understand that the Lord is the pillar of our strength. He is the one who puts marriages together. He's the one who sustains, and He is the way maker. Even when you feel that you've got difficult moments that you cannot get past them, we always look up to Him, and He's been faithful.
For me also, like my husband has said, faith is one thing that you cannot put a touch on it like that. It comes to you in very subtle voices. I think when I made a decision to marry my husband, it was a faith-based decision, but I didn't realize that this was God's doing. So at the point in time, I was still having a lookout on my own things. I want to see this guy whether with my own physical eyes, is he up to date? Can he meet up? But I think God speaks those subtle voices that say, it is not what you are seeing at the moment, right? So the man's now is not the man's tomorrow. You need to look beyond these things and look at the bigger picture. So for me, faith, I think, is what gives someone the ability to minimize the now and hope for a great future. So that plays a big role in our marriage every day, including today. We always know that it's God who puts people together and actually drives that home. If you look at my husband, what he is saying in terms of his own side, from my own side, it's sometimes I used to think to myself, where did I get this person from? I would be asking myself that question, where did this person come from? Like, where exactly did I get this person from? But I think it is that the voice of God that said, this is the man for you. And God said this to me in different ways. I remember in one of our fights, said, I'm going to leave him, this guy. He's very thrifty. He doesn't have he doesn't have the ability to give me the things I really want. So I pack up my load and I want to go. And the voice of faith, and you know, God would actually put a full stop to say, Madam, you cannot leave now. Sometimes it would be a voice, but sometimes it would be a materialization of, I would just discover I'm pregnant with another child. You know, when God is telling you that this is not going away, it is moving forward. So I thank God for faith, and it has been instrumental in our marriage. Well, let me look at me into my eyes, and I think, you know, this is very genuine. I actually love you from the bottom of my heart, but besides the love, it's I have this respect for your person, because you're one person who doesn't give up on life, who doesn't give up in the face of hardship, and that is one of the key qualities that you have that anyone, including me, really admires. You are a fighter, and for me, you are a role model as well for me as a person. I cannot tell you how many situations that I've been in that when I think of you and the way you are and the way you have put through many things in life, I bring myself out of that situation. So for that, I am thankful, and I'm happy that a man like that is my husband. I'm actually proud of you.
For me, my baby, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. And you are a dream fulfilled. You are a caring mother, a loving wife, and everything a man can ask for. I could not have asked for more than what I have.
Thank you. I can't even think of a song that has a beat to it, but there is our song, the one I always used to sing. This is now meant for him, not for Jesus. You are the love of my life. You are the one that makes me so good. You mean more than this world to me. You are my everything. I couldn't trade you for silver nor gold. I couldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. You mean more than this world to me. Woo! That's it.
You are my heartbeat. You are everything I've looked out for. You are my heart desire. You are the one I've been longing for. You are everything, everything that a man could need. You are the apple of my eye.
Wow. Oh! Mwah.